Power rankings, week 9, I think we're in, something like that. So we're going to do the same thing we did last week. We're going to do my rankings, and then we're going to jump into Colin's herd hierarchy and review that and compare kind of the rankings. So this is last week. So as you can see, some changes we had week over week. The big ones are going to be the Bengals at 4, the Jets being involved. I think those are the main changes here. So let's go ahead and swap to this week. Here's my power rankings. Boom. Eagles, Bills, Chiefs, all chill. Now, I'm not counting anything to do with the Eagles-Texans game. Full disclosure, I am recording this after the Eagles-Texans Thursday Night Football, but that will be accounted for in next week's power rankings. So pretend like that is not there. So Eagles, Bills, Chiefs remain. Vikings move up 1. They keep winning. I'm selling stock on the Vikings. I don't believe in the Vikings as a legitimate threat in the NFC, but they're going to win the division. They're going to be a playoff team. They keep winning, so I can't move them around. I could see some of these teams jumping them to 4th, but I mean, I have to keep moving them up. Dallas, same thing. If Dallas had a different coaching staff, I think I would like Dallas a lot more, because I like Dak Prescott in this role of not having to be a superhero, not having to be an MVP, just running an offense, being safe with the ball, making plays when you have to, convert third downs, let the defense win games for you. I like that part of the Dallas Cowboys. I like Tony Pollard getting involved. I think they probably should have made a move at the deadline to go get a wide receiver, like a Chase Claypool or Brandon Cooks. If they had a little bit more offensively, I would think they are really good. But with Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy, are they as good as maybe they're perceived? I'm not sure about that. The Ravens battle a lot of injuries, and the Ravens should be record-wise way better than they are. I'm buying stock in the Ravens. They just have to get healthy. I mean, this week right now, Mark Andrews is hurt. Rashad Bateman is out for the year, I think. So, I mean, they've got some serious issues as well, and they have to take care of that. The Giants, Dayball's the man. I mean, Dayball's got this team moving. Again, I don't trust the team with Daniel Jones, but wins are wins. Boom, the Niners at 8. The Niners are back, baby. What a performance against the Rams. Christian McCaffrey had every touchdown you can possibly have, passing, throwing, receiving. The Niners are so good. I like them so much. Everyone knows the ticket I have on them to win the Super Bowl. I'm almost scared at how much I like the 49ers. To me, they are clearly the second best team in the NFC behind the Eagles. If they can get healthy defensively, if they can get all their starters back, this team, I mean, what's not to like? The Titans at 9. Mike Vrabel is one of my favorite coaches in the NFL. It's hard to win a game when your quarterback throws for 50 yards like Malik Willis did, but they did win the game. They are pounding Derrick Henry every single game. I don't think it's sustainable, but it just goes to show how good of a coach Vrabel is. Remember, last season, this was your 1 seed. Not the Bills, not the Chiefs. The Titans were the 1 seed. And at 10, the Dolphins are back, baby. I love the Dolphins. Tua non for life. I love Tua. I love Mike McDaniel. This is a great team. They're not as good defensively as I think people thought they were earlier in the year, but they are a sneaky good team. Now, they are in the AFC, so that means they have to go through Buffalo and Kansas City. They already have beat Buffalo. Unfortunately, they're not going to win the division, so they'll have to go on the road. That's a big sticking point for me late in the year with Miami. I like the trades they made at the deadline. I did think about getting a Super Bowl ticket on the Dolphins, but it's just so hard for me to envision them going to a snowy Buffalo or a snowy KC and doing the same kind of offense. I love the team, though. Love what they have going on. As far as the future and all that stuff goes, Miami's going to be a contender for years to come. Tua looks really good. Tua looks like he's kind of advancing, developing. I think people gave him a label of not being able to throw a deep ball, which I think he's getting better at. But he's a much better quarterback option than I would rather him than Kirk Cousins. I'll tell you that right now. That's controversial yet brave. So this is my top 10 right here. Honorable mentions. So we'll talk about the Bengals real quick. They went from 4 to 10. Now I had them at 4 before. A little stuttering there. A little repeater. I had them at 4 before Ja'Marr Chase got hurt. And then they had a terrible performance. I don't think Ja'Marr Chase is that big of a deal as far as, I don't think he's the reason for their performance. But they're just one of those teams that cannot adjust. So if they go into a game and at the beginning of the game you see them having trouble, they're going to have trouble the entire game because they cannot adjust in the middle of the game. You see teams like Philadelphia adjust really well during the game. Miami adjusts really well during the game, and that's coaching. Cincinnati can't do that. With that being said, I think they still are a good team. I think they still are a playoff team. They are not a division winner. I think the Ravens will be the division winner there. When Chase comes back, I think they'll be fine towards the end of the year. So they would be my 11. Other teams that would be worth a look, I guess Seattle would be creeping up at some point there. Looking at some other teams here, the Chargers are always in that boat. Arizona's not. New England's somewhere in there. So it's probably like this. This is probably how the honorable mentions would look. It would be Cincinnati 11, and then we'd get into some pretty bad teams there. So this is my top 10. As you can see here, let's go ahead and jump into the herd hierarchy and see where Colin has his 10 teams, and we shall discuss.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Cincinnati. Listen, the Chiefs lost to the...
Okay, so I mean, again, I had them at 4, dropped to 11. He's got them at 10. Oh, look at this. His last week was 4, and he dropped them to 10. Colin, I tell you, we share a brain, my guy.
Colts. It's okay on the road to have a bad game. 3 of their 4 losses have come on the road. They struggle to block Myles Garrett. Jamar Chase is out. But Joe Burrow's been sacked 99 times in the last 2 years.
Look, the NFL, I will say this. People over-exaggerate losses in pro sports, in the NFL and the NBA, because I think they think it's college, where they think, and we're doing a lot of repeating words today, that every loss is a season ruiner. That's not the case. You know, the name of the game in the pros is to just get in the playoffs. Obviously, you want home field advantage. Obviously, you want to win the division. You want buys. You want all that stuff. No doubt about it. But you can have bad games. You can have bad performances, and the team can still take off. You know, the Saints, this is a long time ago, but the Saints lost the year that they ended up losing to the Vikings and the Minnesota Miracle. I think they lost to the Patriots like week 2. I think they were like 0-2. I was saying blow it up. You know, it was disgusting. Adrian Peterson was getting a ton of carries at that time. And then all of a sudden everything shifted, and we became probably the best team in the NFL until the Minnesota Miracle. So losses early in the year are not as big of a deal as fans make them out to be. So I know it seems like I'm overreacting by dropping the Bengals from 4 to 11, but it's more about what they're having trouble doing right now. As far as long-term season projections, once Chase is back, once they fix some issues on the offensive line, once they protect Joe Burrow a little bit better, I think they'll be fine. So this seems like an overreaction, but remember, these power rankings are week to week.
2 years, they got to get that O-line fixed on the edges. They have helped it on the interior. Now they got the Panthers, a bye, and the Steelers coming up. They're going to be fine. But listen, Cleveland owns them, and it's just one of those things where Myles Garrett right now, the Bengals don't have the personnel to block him. J-Mac and I both thought Cleveland would give him trouble last
Oh, J-Mac. I didn't realize Jason McIntyre got a nickname.
night. They did, but don't sell the farm. Carolina beat Tom Brady. We get this every year where you have a game, you don't show up, it's a bad matchup, and you get whacked. The Bengals are still a top 10 team.
Number 9.
Listen, are the Seahawks a good story or a good...
Okay, I had a lot of trouble with this one, so I mentioned I had them in my honorable mention. Sometimes I can be a little stubborn with my own thoughts here, where I don't think Seattle's very good, right? I didn't think they were good coming into the season. I don't think Geno Smith is very good, and I've been proven wrong on both of those. I still don't think Seattle is a good team, per se. I have come around on Geno Smith. He's just playing really good. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a long development kind of thing, but he is playing at an incredibly high level. Now, another thing with Seattle is that Kenneth Walker is the man. So now, if you look at Seattle, right, you have Kenneth Walker, who's probably an offensive rookie of the year, top 2, him and Dameon Pierce. You've got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now, I know DK is hurt, but all of a sudden, it's like, well, shit, if Geno is playing at a high level, that's a really good offense, right? Like, that's a really powerful offense now. And then the defense, which I said earlier in the year was historically bad, if we look at the DVOA, let's go to the DVOA here. If we go to the DVOA and take a look at defense, so the worst, this is now, well, let's just do the best. The best pass defense, if we go down, Seattle's 14. If we go to the rush defense, we go down, Seattle's 10. So now, what I said was a historically bad defense, they sneaky have currently the 10th best run defense, and what did I say, the 14th? The 14th best pass defense. So both well above average, top 10 almost in both. And then if you look at their offense, I mean, we know how good Geno's been. If you look at their offense, right, they have the 5th best offense and our 5th best passing offense and the 13th best rushing offense. So this team now, like where I said they were terrible, all of a sudden they're almost top 10 in every category: rush offense, pass offense, rush defense, pass defense. So something has to happen here. You know, we're deep enough into the season to where sometimes things are just how they are, right? Like, Geno may just be having one of those storybook years. This is a Leicester City kind of thing when they won the Premier League. Earlier in the year when they when they were winning games, people were like, look, this is not going to happen. This is not sustainable. This is not going to work. As the season progressed, all of a sudden it's like, damn, maybe Riyad Mahrez is really good. Maybe Jamie Vardy is really good. I know if you don't know soccer, you have no idea what I'm talking about right now. But we're going into the 9th week of the season. So I think now you can say, look, Geno has something figured out. Whether it's a system, whether it's just, like I said, him being a backup for so long and now getting a chance, you never know why someone, breaks through. But he's breaking through right now. And they've done a really good drafting, or they've done a really good job drafting. So Seattle, I don't have them in my top 10 yet, and I do have Arizona beating them this week. I do have a ticket on the Cardinals -2 or at money line. But if Seattle beats Arizona, then I think you can make a real case that Seattle's just a good team.
Good team. I don't know, but they're number 4 in the league in scoring. They had the best draft I can recall in years. 2 tackles, star running back, star corner, star pass rusher, or semi-star. They have 14 sacks over the last 3 weeks. They lead the NFL. Their defense, 7 games with multiple takeaways.
I don't want to bring this back to the Saints again, but the Saints' big draft that reset the franchise had Alvin Kamara being drafted in the 3rd round, right? When you can pick up an offensive piece like Kenneth Walker late, or just pick him up not in the top 5. A lot of times you see like Najee Harris, you see a team reach on a running back. If you can get a major offensive weapon, whether it's a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, later in the draft, and him make an immediate impact, that is such a big deal, because you're not wasting resources as far as salary cap, as far as you didn't trade to get him, you didn't do anything like that. He's just bonus money, right? He's just found money. And I feel like because of that, you have that coupled with found money in Geno. I mean, Geno wasn't even supposed to start. If Drew Lock doesn't get COVID, Drew Lock is probably the starter for the Seahawks. It's just one of those things that happen where now what's this team look like with Drew Lock? What's this team look like if Kenneth Walker isn't the star that he is right now? Let's say Kenneth Walker is just mediocre and they have Drew Lock. This team's terrible. But right now they have an MVP candidate in Geno Smith and arguably the offensive rookie of the year in Kenneth Walker, both under very, very fortunate contracts and circumstances.
They hit it out of the park. Pete Carroll's always done very well with young players who buy into his relentless energy. They're now scoring. Shane Waldron, a great OC hire. Seahawks at 9.
Number 8.
I love the Ravens. They drive me nuts, but they have the easiest remaining schedule.
Here's the problem with Baltimore. Like I said, the injuries. The injuries are the biggest problem with Baltimore right now. They have some serious problems. As offensively, Mark Andrews, he's such a huge cog to that offense. Like I said earlier, Rashad Bateman being hurt. I like the Ravens. Statistically, it looks like they should have a better record than they currently do. I'd be buying in on the Ravens. I Again, I think that they will win the division, but if they don't get healthy, a lot of that changes.
Schedule, the number 2 rushing offense in the league, the highest rushing average. They can control the clock. And by the way, Lamar Jackson wins 75% of his games. And yes, he can win it in the fourth quarter too, like he did last week. He's had back-to-back games without a turnover. There are so many things I like about this franchise.
I hate the Ravens whenever people talk about their running game. So let's take a look at the Ravens. Okay, here we go. So you hear, like, you'll hear people say that that they have this crazy running game and they do all this stuff and whatever. But I don't think they do. I think Lamar is the man. I think when you add Lamar having an 8-yard average or almost 7.5 yards per carry, that makes up a lot for this. It makes up a lot for the Kenyon Drake, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins kind of combo here. I mean, if we go to some games, like let's go to some last game here. So if we're looking at, at who's running the ball, do we really trust Gus Edwards, Kenyon Drake, Devin Duvernay? Do we trust them, or is the running game completely baked into Lamar Jackson? I know you're sitting here going, James, Gus Edwards has a 6 yards per carry. Kenyon Drake 9 yards per carry. Well, he had a 40-yard carry. Like Kenyon Drake had a 40-yard carry. So if you take that away, he's 6 for 22. Okay, Gus Edwards had a 22-long carry. So if you take that away, all of a sudden this drops to 4 yards a carry and 3 yards a carry. So let's just dig into it a little deeper than it currently is. Let's go to another game. Let's go to the game before that. Let's see here. Man, why is ESPN so hard to deal with? All right, the Browns. All right, Gus Edwards. Again, 4 yards a carry. Justice Hill getting carries. Kenyon Drake, 11 carries for 5 yards. Whenever I hear people say that the Ravens have a blank running offense, they do not. They have Lamar Jackson. And obviously that is a huge part of this. But when you're relying on him to do literally everything with no help, like I said, Rashad Bateman out for the year, Mark Andrews hurt. All of a sudden, it's like, is Lamar Jackson good enough to drag Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Kenyon Drake, Devin Duvernay, Patrick Ricard, Isaiah Likely? I mean, it's just a lot for me.
With Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, they're always going to be in my top 10 unless they literally go off a cliff. Still have Baltimore at 8.
Number 7.
Right now, the Dolphins are good. Now, I do think post-Thanksgiving, cold, windy weather.
Okay, I kind of mentioned this. The Dolphins are good. Like, the Dolphins' offense is good. Let's go ahead and put that to bed. Tua, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill are really, 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 really good. I think you could argue that Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in football. And I'm not sure who would argue with you. He's on pace to have more than 2,000 yards. I think the first receiver to do that. So I hope that's correct. The Dolphins, I do have issues with them later in the season, but that's not really what these power rankings are for. If they had home field advantage, I would be looking at them to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I think they're that good. I think McDaniel is that good of a coach. I think their offense is that good. I do have some serious concerns about Tua running this offense in a blizzard in Buffalo.
Whether it'll be a different looking offense, but they're 5-0 this year when Tua starts. They are terrific on third down. Do you know the only offenses in the league that pass the ball better in terms of numbers are the Bills and the Chiefs? So between the coach, the tight end, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, this is explosive. And also, you know what? You got to give Tua credit. On third down, he has been unbelievable this year. He's completed 72% of his throws on third down. Some of that is schematics, but he deserves credit. They're 5-0.
Yeah, I'm not really sure the Tua hate, to be honest. I think it's just because he's a different kind of player. He's smaller. He's not as athletic. He doesn't have a super strong arm. But I mean, he's not that different to me than a Dak Prescott or like a Dak Prescott of old. I mean, Tua's not going to run around and do some of those things, but he is so efficient. He's so smart with the ball. I mean, I think Tua has somehow become underrated and undervalued, even though he's performed so well in his brief stint as a starter.
No, when he starts, Miami at 7.
Number 6.
But I'd probably take Dallas to beat them. The only loss this year for this team is game 1 when Dak was injured and at Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is really good. Their defense.
Dallas is kind of funny because every year Dallas is so overrated because they're America's team and all that stuff. This year, I feel like people are trying to find a reason not to back Dallas. Even me. And I'm usually like a Dallas kind of boomer. I'm usually kind of like Dallas is good, go Cowboys. And even this year, I'm like, let's temper expectation, guys. And like I said in my rankings, it's strictly because of Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy. It's strictly because I think if they're in a situation against the Niners or against even the Dolphins, I expect the other coaching staff to just completely embarrass Dallas. But as far as players, as far as personnel, Dallas is really, really good. Dallas reminds me of San Francisco, where they don't have that much talent on the offensive side. And obviously Shanahan is way better of a coach than McCarthy, but they have an elite level defense, like elite level, historically elite, with a disruptive player like Micah Parsons. And they do have offensive pieces. I mean, maybe I'm not giving Dallas enough credit. Like I said, I don't think they're a true threat in the NFC. I don't think they'll be, a team that wins a bunch of playoff games. But then again, good defenses are exactly what you want in the playoffs and exactly what wins playoff games. So maybe they are the Rams of last year, where it's just a team that's just a nice built team that I'm not giving enough credit because they're not shiny. I don't know. But Dallas is good.
Defense is fantastic. They lead the NFL with 33 sacks. Sometimes they get them without bringing that much pressure. They take the ball away. Now, can they come to terms with Tony Pollard is their running back? He's their star running back, not Zeke. Jerry,
True.
You're just going to have to step aside. I know you love Zeke. You paid him a lot of money. Do I have questions about Mike McCarthy in crisis? Absolutely.
Yes.
Questions about not having anybody I trust beyond C.D. Lamb at wideout? Absolutely. But this defense, this run game, they're 6, Cowboys.
Number 5.
Vikings added T.J. Hawkinson, another.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I have them at 4. I love the Hawkinson acquisition. I think that crazy Detroit does that. Interesting move. That probably means Dan Campbell is on his way out. If they're trading away big pieces like that. It's just Kirk Cousins, man. It's Kirk Cousins or bust here. And Kevin O'Connell, I'm not a huge fan of. They're 6-1. It's hard for me to be like, I'm not a huge fan of this, even though they have basically won every game they've played. I just do not. I have seen this movie a million times. I know how this movie ends. Kirk Cousins, just flat out to me, and this is something I could say and could really haunt me. Kirk Cousins to me is not a get over the hump quarterback. He's a quarterback who will protect your season. He's a quarterback who will win you 10, 11, 12 games. He's a quarterback who will keep you involved in games. But as far as get you over the hump to a Super Bowl, to an NFC Championship game, to winning road playoff games, that ain't Kirk Cousins. Okay? So, and Justin Jefferson, I'll say this though. The Vikings are 6-1. I think Justin Jefferson hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. Right? So it's not like Justin Jefferson is carrying him. If they get Jefferson rolling, how dangerous would this team look? So I will give some credit there. But if right now, if you told me I have to either have Dallas or the Vikings to win the NFC, I'd probably go Dallas.
Weapon to this offense. One of 2 teams in the league with 10 touchdown passes and 10 rushing touchdowns. The Eagles are the other. Yes, they're winning close games. That's why they get T.J. Hawkinson. So you can't double up on Justin Jefferson and take him out of game plans. Listen, I like him. Do I love him? I'll tell you this. You had a great tight end to Dalvin Cook, Thielen, Justin Jefferson. By the way, Zadarius Smith they got from the Packers is crushing it. They got a lot of the elements. Vikings at 5.
Number 4.
I mean, we basically said the same thing there. I like them, I guess. I just don't love them.
Listen, if you don't get the Niners, I can't help you. Okay.
God, I love this team. I love this team. I mean, this is a team. God, I mean, like the Christian McCaffrey, it's almost like Christian McCaffrey went to a time machine, and now we're going to see him used how he was at Stanford. I mean, just think about offensively. Offensively, you have Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. This team, the weapons on this team are insane. And that's not even talking about their historically good defense. I mean, They're going to win the division. I know we've talked about this. I know I've got the Super Bowl ticket. I mean, I just think if this team doesn't go to the NFC Championship game, it's just going to be devastating.
Okay, they lost to Kansas City. After Kansas City came off a loss to Buffalo. It was a buzzsaw. But Jimmy Garoppolo, hate to break it to you, 4th straight game with multiple touchdown passes, 4 games with 100-plus passer rating. This week, crushed the Rams without Debo, without their great fullback. Every week, they get another healthy player back. 8th straight regular win over the rival Rams. Now it's Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell's coming back. Keep your eye on the Niners. In the NFC, they're going nowhere.
I will say this. The Niners have to keep winning. Like, they're on a bye week this week, I believe, but they have to string together like 4 wins. They can't, I'm hyping them up a lot. Colin's hyping them up a lot. They're 4-4, right? So they have to be 7-4. They have to be 8-4. They have to be in that world. They have to put this together. It can't be hype with no results. It has to be some results at some point. I know last week was certainly a result, but we need to string a couple of these together for me to have them in that, that top 4 range. Colin's going fully on hype, and he's buying in. I need to see it.
Number 3.
Buffalo Bills. I know they won and everybody loves it. Does anybody bail on their running game faster than Buffalo? They're getting too cocky, too much chatter. You don't have any wins. Where are your Super Bowls? Couldn't get them with Jim Kelly. You're not getting them now. I like the team, but they bail on their run game. They're overly Josh Allen-centric.
I do think that's an issue long-term, is the whole thing where it's like, it is similar to me to Baltimore, where I do worry that Buffalo is going to try and do this with literally no one in the backfield. They just got Nyheim Hines from Indy, but they just do not run the football well with their running backs. Josh Allen can run the ball well. Josh Allen is their best runner. But if it comes down to, look, we need to run the football here in the playoffs. In the playoffs, you want to be able to run the ball. You want to have a good defense. I don't know. I mean, Josh Allen will have to be otherworldly for this team to win a Super Bowl, because he's going to have to win these games one-on-one with really good coaches knowing that and really good coaches scheming for him. Now, I know you're sitting here going well, James, he's done that for the last year and a half, and he's been really good. Yes, but that's why I think they can't get through the playoffs, is because it's so much on Josh Allen. They need to develop a running game, or it's going to be hard for me to believe in this team, or believe this team is as good as everyone else believes them to be.
Sometimes you got to take the ball out of your best player's hands to protect him from himself. Now, they do have the number 1 offense and the best yardage differential. But Josh Allen's accounted for 21 of their 23 offensive touchdowns this year. Stop bailing on your run game. Bills at 3.
Number 2.
Chiefs were idle, so I'll put them at 2. What do you want me to say? They're 19-3 off a bye with Andy Reid, so you know they're winning this week. Best third down offense. Why I put them at 2? They're susceptible on the back end of their defense.
The thing I like about the Chiefs right now is that they seem to be getting Juju involved. And don't tell Kyrie Irving I said that. But they seem to be getting Juju involved. They seem to be finding kind of their rhythm. They seem to be kind of moving. They're not. Earlier in the year, it was a lot of Kelsey. It was a lot of Mahomes being a magician. But now they seem to know what these new pieces can do. An interesting thing is the Clyde Edwards-Helaire situation, where they kind of dropped him basically to nothing. He's basically a glorified backup, or he is a glorified backup. I think he gets 8 touches a game. So they've kind of shifted that. They've kind of shifted that part of their identity. The Chiefs are just they're like the Astros. They're really, really good. They do not make mistakes. You can count on them to have 13 wins. You can count on them to be in the AFC Championship game. You can count on them to be dynamic and good, and they don't have stinkers. And I mean, the team is just. I mean, what else can you say? Honestly, they're the best team in the NFL in waiting. They're the best team in the NFL that's undervalued.
Allowed the most passing touchdowns in the league. Some of that is because they lead late. Some of it is because they gave up a really good corner to the Niners. I do worry in the AFC that they're vulnerable on the back end of that defense. It worries me. Kansas City at 2.
Number 1.
Listen, Philadelphia played and won by a rout. They are no longer just a great story. They appear to be a great team. They take the ball away.
They're super good. I mean, and again, I won't talk about the Texans game last night. The Eagles are nasty. The Eagles, they can beat you in so many different ways. They're like the opposite of a lot of the teams we've talked about. They can, if they want to, they can just run the ball all night, or they can throw the ball all night. They can say, we're going to beat you with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and we're going to let Jalen Hurts toss it all over the place, or we're going to shut it down, run the football a million times, and good luck stopping us. Their defense, nasty secondary, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay, and then their defensive line, incredible. So, I mean, they can do it all. Jordan Davis being out a little bit hurts. The only possible little thing that they're not great at, the only thing is that you can kind of run the ball on them. But, I mean, this team, look, this is a 15, 16, 17 win team. Bottom line, this team is disgusting. For my money, Jalen Hurts is the MVP right now. I think Jalen Hurts is playing at the highest level in the NFL right now. He looks so calm. He looks so good. I mean, Nick Sirianni is the man. He knows what he's doing. He's very Mike Vrabel-esque. This is just a team who knows who they are. The Eagles are right now one of those teams that just A+ everywhere across the board. The Bills can't say that. The Bills do not get an A+ in their running game. You know, the Chiefs can't say that. The Chiefs don't get an A+ for their secondary. They don't get an A+ for their running game. No team can do that. This team has an A+ at every single stop. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, the whole thing. Coaching, everything, A+.
They don't give it up. Boy, when you give a young quarterback a star receiver, Josh Allen gets Stephon Diggs, pops. Jalen Hurts gets A.J. Brown, pops. Tua gets Tyreek Hill, pops.
Derek Carr gets Devontae Adams. Oh, no.
A.J. Brown stretches that field. What a get by Howie Roseman, the GM. I'll put it.
And they get an A+ of the GM. Howie Roseman's probably the best GM in football.
One, they played, and they won in a rout.
Very good, Colin. I like that background, son. So there you go. That's my top 10 and Colin's top 10. Colin, just relax, pal. No need to be that serious. Unclench your jaw, my guy. There it is. There's the top 10. Not a lot changing at the top. That top 3, I think, is hard set. I think that'll be your top 3 for the rest of the year. You may see Kansas City go up to 1. Buffalo may go to 2. But those 3 are set. 4, I think at the end of the year, 4 will be San Francisco for me. And then it's going to be that chunk of like Dallas, Baltimore. It's going to be those teams in there. I'm kind of surprised Colin didn't have the Giants, to be honest. But, you know, Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. Right now, I think there's probably 6 or 7 teams that are legitimate threats in the NFL. I think if you're a fan of one of those 6 or 7 teams, you've got legit Super Bowl aspirations. If you're at the bottom part there, I think you're an average team in the grand scheme of things. The playoffs, the parity in the NFL, not very good for what it looks like to me. But thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. No one does it like I do it.